Namaste, everyone. Welcome to Light, Laughter, and Lattes. My name is Geri Habstritt, and my co-host, Patty Peterson, is here. We are both Avesa quantum healers, medical intuitive, self-ascension intuitive counselors, and so glad to have you here with us today as we talk about harvesting beauty and reclaiming beauty in this beautiful springtime. So it's the perfect time to do this. Time of rebirth, time of newness, time of awakening. And we want to say welcome to everyone. If you are listening on Facebook on Oneness Talk Radio, or YouTube on Oneness Talk Radio, or if you're catching this later via podcast on Spotify, Anchor, glad to have you here. And we are trying something new today. We are streaming via Zoom as opposed to our regular outlet. So we're not sure if everything is working the same as it usually does. So if there is someone listening that is in the chat, if you could just type a message, that would be awesome, because we want to know if the chat is actually working through Zoom. So if anyone is listening, just a hi or whatever would be awesome. Thank you. And so today is an up-level day. So what does up-level mean? Well, it means we are getting an opportunity to go a step up beyond where we've been. I don't know if you've been tracking this year in up levels, but I find myself always stepping out a little bit more, doing a little bit more after these up levels. How about you, Patty? How do you experience them?
Absolutely. And feeling something going on during that day, even in my body, feeling perhaps some symptoms, dizziness, I think, on one of them, or else in my world, just seeing some reflections of this big up level day. And then usually after that day, I usually feel more of a, stepping into the new.
Yeah, after these, I feel more of me. Like, oh, well, why couldn't I do this before? It feels so good to be doing this now. Why was it so hard before? And it's just natural and easy now.
Right. Yep. And so, that's a reminder for a lot of us, if some of the days feel a little wonky or wobbly, to trust and go back to our practices or whatever, because then as we align with that and integrate all of our energies, things flow with more ease.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And so not only is it an up-level day, but in ascended numerology, it's a 6. So the 6 is about rebirth. And so fascinating that we would have a rebirth day on an up-level day, because all up-level days are often rebirths anyways. And it's also the Merkaba.
Yes.
So yeah. So it's a great day. So I don't know how everyone's experiencing it, but I know lots of fascinating stuff with internet and computer stuff not quite working right. We just all ignited the crystalline grid on the planet, the crystalline grid of illumination. And this I suspect that this has something to do with the technology being really weird. Even I've been teaching, and even in the schools, they're having internet going out and all kinds of things happening there as well. So I don't know, things are happening.
Right. And what do we do during that, Geri? I mean, what are some tips that you recommend? Okay, things, we have this plan and this expectation to do this and this, and then our way of that happening isn't.
Well, I've been I think I was like prepared ahead of time. For me, it's been about go with the flow.
Yes.
Like the world's going to come in and we're going to just erase how you think this is going to work. We're going to just pull things out from under you, and now let's see how you do with it. So, and it's kind of fun. It's a break from the norm, right?
Yeah, we can get out of our mind to embrace that, correct?
Right,
That
right.
surrender. Okay, even today, if this wasn't working, all right, we'll trust the flow and whatever is meant to be, guide us. But that is letting go and a big surrender into that moment. And that ties to the beauty, because can we see beauty in that? Can we see a gift? And in that, oh, maybe I get to go sit outside in nature and breathe and not have to worry about any technology in the moment or whatever.
Right. Yeah, no, and the school kids got a break. And it was so
Right?
funny because the teacher was very much in the mode where, no, we've got to do this work online because they're so accustomed now to do everything online
Oh,
with
sure.
COVID.
Yep.
And she wasted probably 30 minutes of the period trying to get
Oh,
to work online. And I'm like, well, how about the old fashioned way? You could just print it out. All they have to do is fill in the blanks. Can't we just print it out? And she was like, she wasn't wanting to do that.
oh, some of the old ways we're letting go of already.
Yeah, no, clearly it's funny how we get ingrained in our old ways and we have a hard time doing that. But really, I think stepping into the, and especially with the concentric time, the way we're in, you really have to be a go with the flow. You just can't hold on anymore. You can't hold on to time. You can't hold on to anything. It's really
And if you do, you're going to be very uncomfortable. I mean,
exactly.
you know, right. Agreed. That was a theme. I was just with my grandsons, and the theme was go with the flow, go with the flow.
Well, talking about beauty,
Yes.
the little grandkids
Being
are,
with the young ones, right? Oh
yes.
my gosh. Their essence is so bright, and always that being in that moment and the joy and the present. What's here in front of me right now? Such a beautiful teachers. I know you spend your time during the day with children too at work, right? And
Mhm.
that constant reminder, come back to, and that noticing little details, things that so easily in the adults or the around, we are distracted and we're not seeing the details, and
Mhm.
how important that can be.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Speaking of, harvesting. So one of the keys that we both work on being quantum healers and intuitives is really harvesting the gifts in our life. And so not everything looks like beauty. Matter of fact, most of my challenging moments that have brought me the greatest growth have been the toughest, the most miserable, that have had me on the ground in tears. And it's not until later when we get to a new space and we can look back at it and go, oh my God, that moment was beautiful. It was beautiful. Had that moment not happened, I would not be where I am right now. And so I think that's probably one of the number one keys for us to be able to find beauty in everything is to first of all be able to cultivate it in our most challenging moments, in our most challenging experiences.
Yes, and that may call people to look at what is beauty to them. Even that word sometimes can have a lot of society beliefs tied around it, and then within that, um, our own from our lifetime and generational. I know for myself, there's a lot of that through the old generations, or also past lives. So just sitting even with, wow, what is beauty for me? Because it takes a level of consciousness to begin then to start saying, oh, this that was so challenging, now I can start to see that pearl, that jewel, that beauty in it. And that's as we keep working on it, I don't like the word working perhaps, but raising our level of consciousness, our expansion, then we can see that more clearly. And as we continue that spiraling up, hopefully more quickly, right? Integrate that much more quickly. It's not going to be as much work getting there as it was in the past.
Absolutely. Well, I was just looking the definition because I did this earlier. I thought I want to know what Google says the definition of
Okay.
beauty is, right?
Okay.
Because like you said, beauty has so many different meanings to people. I mean, I I think of experiences as beautiful, right? And most people wouldn't think of an experience as beautiful. So one of the definitions, which I'm so disappointed in, I'd have to say, is it's a beautiful woman.
Oh, interesting.
And I thought, well, why not a beautiful man? Can a man be beautiful?
Right. Yes.
Like
Yeah, sure.
if I'm explaining the fullness of a man and not just his looks, I might say he's a beautiful person.
Yes, his essence, his authentic
Yes.
beingness, his beauty. Absolutely.
Yeah, so the one is a combination of qualities such as shape, color, or form that pleases the aesthetic senses, especially the sight.
Yes.
And then the second one was a beautiful woman. So,
Interesting. Yes. So we're looking at a broader context
yeah,
in
absolutely.
in this beauty, and how can we look at something um, even in our past that we didn't see as beauty and now start to look at it that way, whether it's physical or an experience or anything. What
Mhm.
is one way that we can start to cultivate that more ourselves?
Yeah, I was in, and I don't know if I've shared this on my show before. I know I've shared it with friends and possibly you. Um, but the experience where I had to leave my youngest son when he was in fifth grade, and that was so hard on me, but I had to do it. It's still hard on me. I cried about it today still, and it's been, well, he's a senior now, so
Mhm.
I missed all his middle school and his high school years,
Mhm.
and I FaceTimed with him, a month or two ago, and we really talked about it, talked about all that I missed. And he shared with me what he went through, and he went through some depression over it. Um, and we had a really good sharing around it, and we both had tears around it. And at the very end, I asked him, I said, no, Andrew, was there anything good that came out of this experience? And he said, yes, Mom. He said, I'm fearless. I could do anything now. And so in my mom's mind, it
Mhm.
was, oh my God, I'm leaving my child. How could I do this? And I was a mom that
Oh,
wanted to do everything for my
yes.
kids,
Very
right?
hands-on, very, yes.
And look at the world we are in. I
Mhm.
mean, look at the world we are in now. The greatest gift we can give our kids is to be fearless and
Yes,
to have them trust themselves.
yes,
As
yeah,
they're heading out in the world as a senior, I'm thinking, oh my God, look what I gave him.
yes.
He needed this for this
Right.
time.
And and how in the moment of our excruciating experiences, that isn't evident to us, many of us, and so many. And as time goes on, and as we continue on our journey and processing through all our own traumas and hurts and claiming our gifts, that was so revealed, and you were able to be reaffirmed that those roots are going to propel him for his journey in this lifetime. Wow.
Yeah, absolutely. And afterwards, I was in tears. It was like, oh my God,
Mhm.
look at the gift I gave him. I mean, is
Yes.
his college gift. He got fearlessness as he heads out into this world.
Yes.
And but not to say that I still don't have a lot of pain over,
Right.
you
There's
know,
mhm.
even today I was going through all the recipes that I've cooked. I have a stack like this. And one of my greatest joys was cooking for my family, cooking for the kids. And
Holes are
all that energy was in the recipes. And I'm going through them, throwing out the ones that I just don't cook meat anymore, right? And I don't cook with cream or milk or even regular flour anymore. And I still kept the recipes around, and I know why. I couldn't let go of them.
sure.
I've got little notes on some of them saying, awesome, Mom, make it again, with smiley faces,
Oh,
and
yeah.
things like that. And I was feeling all the love in these recipes
Mhm.
that I had while I was cooking food for my family. And so there's still, I mean, you still have to go through the processing
Yes.
of the emotions. And really that's what brings you to the beauty, is looking at it, being brave enough to look at those pains,
Mhm.
work through the sadness, the anger, the self-judgment, or what's ever there. And
Mhm.
when you get through it, the beauty usually reveals itself.
Yes. Exactly. Exactly. And not only for you, as you did that huge piece, the healing that and holding that went on above you in your lineage, and now, I mean,
Mhm.
son Andrew is revealing that what he received on his, and that I find, wow, yeah, that's powerful that you had that reaffirmation from
Right.
him, that he recognized the gifts. And that's so
Yes.
true. Are we claiming and harvesting, as their title was,
Mm-hmm.
from all of our great challenges, and that we all, we chose, we came in line to be here at this time, and we chose. That was one of my first. I remember as I had my first time alone with Shri and Kira many, many years ago, and one of their first things they said to me too was, "Your children knew what they were going to walk through." And because I was still carrying a lot of guilt that I wasn't there emotionally for them in that early year or two after their father died suddenly, very young, and they were young. And yet, on a soul level, they knew that. And that too, in that similar way, is most of them have great courage to live their lives as they stretch their wings and are all around the world living
Right.
and being who they are
Mm-hmm.
through a very, very, very difficult childhood. Not that pieces don't come up for them to look at and heal, and myself continually. And for each of us, as we do that within us, the opportunity that it is bringing to so many others through it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and if we don't raise ourselves up just a bit to, and sometimes you can't always see. For many, many years, as I was going through the moving through that,
Mhm.
um, I didn't really see clearly why I was having to do this. There was a lot of anger at God.
Oh,
Why would you bring me here? And my greatest
sure.
passion of all was to be a mom. And now for
Yes.
my highest good and their highest good, I have to leave.
Yeah.
How can that be possible? You right?
Right.
And you don't always see it might be years later. For me, it was
Yeah.
6 years later before I got the full realization. I mean, I always knew that this is what I had to do,
Mhm.
and I trusted my knowing and I went with it, but I
Mhm.
didn't really truly see the gifts. I mean, who knew the world was going to end up in COVID, right? The schools would be closed and we'd be in masks, and everyone would be speaking backwards, right? News media, you can't trust anything you hear. You can't believe a word of
Yep.
it. What
Yep.
we counted on most, maybe back in the 80s, is what we know now to count the least on, right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so now who's left to trust but yourself,
That's it. Yeah.
right? In your intuition.
Yep.
I'm thinking of another person that keeps coming to mind around this beauty experience. It's a friend of mine who's a dueling pianist. He's a master at piano, and I want to get him on here so he can tell his story and play his piano someday. But he has a hard time talking in front of people. But he's a great at playing for people. And anyways, he spent the first 13 years, well, when he was young, um, his father shot his mother. So he lost his mother. His dad went to prison. So he proceeded to
Mhm.
go into, what do you want to call them?
Foster.
Foster homes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mhm.
One foster home every year for 13
Oh,
years.
wow. Mhm.
So, so what do you count on when you're young? Your stability is your family, right? Your
Yeah.
stability is going to
Yes.
school and the kids and counting on something every day to have a strong root chakra, right?
Mhm.
And he didn't have that. Every year he was at a new home with new parents, a new town, new school, new kids. But when he was was he like 4 years old? His social worker said, you need to pick an instrument, either piano or drums, right? Of all things,
Yeah.
piano or drums. How about hauling around a flute as opposed to a
Right, a
piano?
guitar maybe, but okay.
But this is when it's the highest self acting out, right? So
Mhm.
he picks the piano. And so if the houses he went to didn't have a piano, the state would buy him one. So
Wow.
the only one thing he could count on always having with him was his piano. That was his only stability. So now COVID happens and everyone's shut down and people are needing a little upliftment. Most people went online and did their music online. He
Mhm.
tried that once and he said, this isn't for me. I'm putting my piano out in the driveway. So
Oh,
he hauled his grand piano out in the driveway and he started driveway concerts. So since April of last year, many of us were able to still go out and dance when we were needing to dance, and we were singing songs together. And he was there with his. I mean, when you have 13 years of that, COVID's not going to shut you down, right? That's just a little blip.
that
And I was just smiling because, like, look at how prepared
was that
he had
we're more
no
prepared.
clue.
Good point. Uh-huh.
Yeah, he was totally prepared for this time so
Mhm.
that he could be there in a way to be the catalyst for upliftment and a joy at a time when people needed it most.
Yes.
But
Wow.
just think of all those years that a person, that's just, one example of how we go through these experiences and we don't really know why, but we just really have to trust our souls. I guess it comes back to that again.
Mhm. Absolutely. Absolutely. May each of these challenges be developing that deeper connection. Wow. And you're talking about finding beauty. Something you said reminded me of, I had heard, and correct me if I'm wrong, but in somebody somewhere talking about Viktor Frankl, the survivor from the concentration camps, and how in such stark, horrible conditions, in his food, if he had the head of a fish floating in water, that was his meal. Just looking at that eye of that fish and seeing beauty. That his
Mhm.
main theme was, how can we, no matter what is going on, can we find something to bring beauty? So in something so horrific, that was one of the things that kept him alive. And
Absolutely.
so that, how can we slow down, perhaps even in our day to day? Because so often we are programmed, we have these patterns and these old habits, and today's world of distractions, and then we have our trauma imprints, you know and
Mhm.
I mean, there's this all of this, and to just slow down in any moment, and whatever I'm in, can something here in front of me show me something that has some form of beauty or gratefulness or connection, that I'm right here. And
Mhm.
so sharing some of these stories that all have big challenges, and yet, you know, people came out where they are such a gift, a beautiful teacher, a mentor,
Mhm.
modeling, modeling we can, what we've come through to carry that
Mhm.
greater consciousness or expansion.
Right. And so much of it comes back to um, loving ourselves really and finding the beauty in ourselves.
Mm,
Um,
that's key.
the level of beauty that we can see in ourselves, I believe, is our capacity to see the beauty outside of ourselves.
Absolutely. I saw recently, and this I wanted to bring forward, was a practice that just to see where we're at, and if you can close your eyes, if it's safe, and notice, where do I describe myself from? If I were to describe myself, closing our eyes and connect, if you had to describe yourself out to somebody, what what words would come forward?
Hmm.
How would we do that? How many of us would describe ourselves from limitations,
Right.
or what I am not enough of yet, or I don't know. I mean, that's where some of my old programming would be, and where I've started to look at, um, oh, okay, what are these? How do I see me? And taking some of those forward that were I saw as limitations, and be with it. And how do I love and accept that in order to start seeing more of the beauty and the uniqueness of
Mhm.
myself in order to see that beyond.
Right. Well, and when you first said that, my first thought was, oh, I could think of a lot of good things. But then my second thought was, but I wouldn't feel comfortable saying it to people.
There we go, right?
Yeah.
That's mine too, because of some old beliefs I may have mentioned before about, that's, well, you're being vain, or, that was a word used in
Yeah.
my lineage at one time way back, and you can't promote yourself, or, and that's exactly what we do need. How do, again, how the children can say, yeah, I'm good at this. And, where did we lose that? So,
Yes.
a practice that I give my clients is the soul qualities. I believe this is one maybe that came through in our medical intuitive training of taking, and I had a template made up because it helps people start the balls roll, the the engines going in the mind, whatever you want to call it. And on that list, there's things from, like you mentioned, Andrew said, fearlessness to enthusiasm, discipline, passion, strength, strong sales skills, innocence, optimism, curiosity. Okay. You know, and we just start going, okay, how many of these would I circle I have? Can I really claim all these?
Mm-hmm.
And see how many. And I've had clients who had a very challenging time coming up with really claiming very many at all. And then I encourage them to say, take that to somebody that loves you and just see how many of those they see in you.
Mm-hmm.
And now can you sit and start to see that in you? And then add on top of that, we all have these God-given gift, skills, and talents and uniqueness of who we are. And then add to that, okay, every challenge you went through. Now let's start listing, what did I develop in this?
Mm-hmm.
Or every job, right? So I love that practice.
Yeah, it's reminding me of, well, it's reminding me of a practice that Wayne Dyer talked about, the Bememba tribe. Um, and it's one I actually worked with kids for a program called Peacemakers when I lived in Minnesota. And so we actually did this where we created a circle with the kids in the classroom, and then each student sat in the center of the circle.
Yes.
And then everyone on the outside had to say one thing that they loved about that person.
Mhm.
And so typically, how the story goes in the Bememba tribe was what they would stay there all night and exhaust the good stuff until the person in the center, which would have been someone who had done something challenging. So typically in our world, we would put that person in prison
Yep.
or we would
Shame them some more.
condemn,
Shame. Yep.
condemn that person in some way. Well,
Mhm.
their consciousness is much higher. And so they would say, well, this person has forgotten that they're love,
That's it.
right? They've
Yes.
forgotten their love. So we need to remind them
Yes.
about the love that they are and how great they are. So they would go around and do that until they basically break the person into remembering who they are.
That is such a beautiful example. And how many of us could integrate that even more in our homes around the dinner table?
Yeah,
Hey, how about we
exactly.
look at each one and say, what I appreciate about you is
Yeah,
what
yeah,
makes
yeah.
you
And,
I
and and I know even I did it with the eighth graders. So it was a little more challenging from the kindergarten up to eighth because we start to
Mm,
pile on more layers. We put on more veils as we get older, right?
yep.
So the kindergartners, they were so caught up in love, they became one massive pile. They all dove on top of each other, and it was a love fest of hugs. That's what happened with the
Much more of that we need to embrace. Okay.
we got to the eighth graders and they were more challenged. And one
Yeah.
of the students came up after class, actually a few days later, and said that practice had saved her life because she had been contemplating suicide.
Oh, wow.
And to hear all of her peers
Mhm.
say all these beautiful things about her, that was enough to change. She changed the course of what she did,
Mhm.
even.
Mhm.
So, so it reminds me of if you're talking about, can we own these beautiful things, if can we sit in a
That's
circle and even hear people say
right. Some people have a hard time receiving and even hearing it. I'll even ask that sometime with some of the clients. If they're really in a negative pattern of how their self-worth, you know, do you remember anybody saying something positive to you? And they may not even remember, even though that happened. And then later they'll come say, oh yeah, they did. Funny how I didn't hear it. Or, you know, they couldn't even accept
Mm,
that. So that
right.
practice that that tribe used is so perfect. And we start embracing more of those kind here in our culture. I
Mhm,
know we did that when we went to Guatemala in 2015.
mhm. Yep.
That was so powerful for me too, because I
Mhm.
was working through something at that time. And to have each one say, you know, and knowing that it's a reflection, whatever they see in us is of themselves.
Right.
And and so that brings to mind another practice that I've done is you know, if people took and found 5 people they admire and then write down some of the qualities that you admire, like take each one and write 3 qualities you admire in each one. Now, can you see that you are a reflection and those are in you?
Mhm.
So I like some of these practices to sit with ourselves and see where we're at.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I was thinking about the topic a little bit today too. I was
Mhm.
taking back to, beauty. For me, the ultimate beauty, and I'm sure for you as well, was the birth of my children.
Oh,
Right? And especially the birth of my first one, not that my first was any better than the 3, it just was a brand new experience where it had never happened before. So I felt a love I didn't even know I had a capacity to feel,
mhm,
right? And it
mhm.
was like I was so overcome by this love, I almost felt like I wasn't worthy of that much love, that much joy.
Yes.
It was like how I couldn't even take it in. And it took a while. I mean, it took lots of training in what we do in consciousness to finally realize that it wasn't that my son carried that love that I was feeling. That was my ability to love that I was connecting with that he revealed in me,
Yes.
you
Yeah.
know? So it felt at first back then like he was that love. I was feeling that because of him. And then it was like, no, no, that was me. He just triggered that in me,
You
you know?
opened or revealed that aspect of you. Yes.
Right.
Beautiful.
And so it's like if you're able to go for a walk and just see the beauty in the flowers and the beauty in the nature and the beauty around you, it's a reflection of your ability to see the beauty in yourself.
Yes. Yes.
Because so many people will walk through all of that and not see any of it.
That's it. That's it. If we are back in all these distractions, too much in our mind, our egoic self, whatever, we can be in the midst of such beauty and not owning it, connecting with it, feeling it. And so for some, it's a conscious practice to help me slow down. That's, I mean, that, and I say that because that's a big one for me, and to be more present and what's beauty right in front of me right now to help see
Yeah.
ourselves. Absolutely. Um, and to know that each one of us, as we do that, it truly sends out such a beautiful ripple of energy.
Well, absolutely. And I have a really good reflection around this. Because of course I came back from Tosa from the equinox event.
Mhm, mhm.
And I tell you what, 40 to 8 hours of ceremony, and we're talking, I am so prayed up. Every
Yeah.
abuelo, grandmother, grandfather, son, daughter, tree, cow, root. We prayed for it all because we did
Oh,
not stop for 48 hours.
oh,
And so it was just, and at the end of it, I'm like, wow, I am so prayed up. I mean, there's not a thing or a person that didn't get prayed for, right? And it was gratitude. And it was 48 hours basically of straight ceremony. Every rock that came in the Temescal was the reflection of a grandmother that we're praying for, or a grandfather or something. And so it was 2 weeks of me of seeing beauty in everything, especially the San Pedro journey, when I got to really see everything with the veils down, every color, every flow, how every particle of creation moves and is enlightened and enjoyed because you're appreciating the beauty in it. And so it reflects that back to you, right? So 2 weeks of this, and I come back and I go to my regular place, out to the Buffalo Club dancing, which is funny because like 2 days before that, I was so out of body, I didn't even know how I was going to get home again. And everyone was just, oh, thank you. Oh, I appreciate you. Oh, I mean, this was a whole new energy. And I had a girlfriend walk up to me who knew I was gone. And she's like, tell you what, the energy here changed.
There we go.
Everyone
Yes.
is in gratitude. Everyone's thanking everyone. Everyone's hugging everyone.
Yes.
So it's, everything you do matters, right? Everything you do, everything you appreciate, everything that you love, and it has to come home to yourself first.
That's it. And for some reason, I'm being reminded in this moment of when we have pain. The way, the pain is always a call to consciousness. And so one way that may get us, because we're feeling, to feel more and connect more is through the body. And so when that pain comes forward, and even in that, when we can accept it and start to love it, to get the message, then that too can transform and reveal the gift of what was underneath that, and open up a whole new portal. And so somehow that was tied to there, but I was somehow being reminded that.
Well, absolutely, because we're taught to like, oh, I've got this pain. Let's quick and get it out of the way. Let's ignore it. Take some medicine, take a drug, take something to stop the pain so I can get on with my routine. And usually the pain is there to stop some kind of a routine. Right?
Yeah.
So we want to medicate it to stop the routine so we can get on with our day to day, when the pain is there really to give us a message about our day to day so that we can, make our lives better. We can be more of what we really want to be and came here to be. But we have to take the time, the presence to listen. And first it takes a knowing that there's even a message. I mean, because we both at one point were in a consciousness where we didn't know there was a message in the pain.
No, not at all. I come through the medical field and it's like right away there's something wrong, right? Fix it, medicate it, change it. I don't want to deal with it. And now starting to, each time the body calls out to us, can we sit and be with that? And so fully be in that presence of acceptance and beauty of this body, this form that's saying, I'm here, pay attention. And sometimes that's all it takes, right? Sometimes it's just that slowing down and that awareness to that moment and breathe into it. And it can open things up. Sometimes we may get deeper shifts that we are being guided to do.
Yeah, well, slowing down and being in the presence in so many ways is saying, I'm open to receive the beauty. As we're not present and we're running through, we're denying everything around us. We're denying the beauty. We're denying the gifts. We're denying our presence, our presence is the divine within us.
Yes. That authentic beauty of, each unique expression. Absolutely.
So I have a little reminder too for everyone as we're, claiming our beauty and everything right now. Right now, we're still in this time of the chalice, right? We're all a chalice, and what are we filling our chalice with? And so, a chalice is this open cup, what we're putting in it, and it's all going to keep coming in, I believe, until September, right? We're filling our chalice for September. And so I just kind of had a little reminder the other day that not only is our chalice being filled with our conscious things that we're calling in, so if we're calling in more beauty, but it's also filling with our focus. And it's filling up with whatever we're putting our attention on right now. So if we're putting a lot of attention on, say, Facebook, and maybe we're connecting with many, many people who have things going on in their life or whatever, unconsciously our chalice is filling with that. or the people we're hanging around, or the dramas and all of those things.
And there's
And
a
so
lot of that out there, all around, what's the top things in the news right now with, the COVID and the vaccine, and where are we putting that focus? How much of that?
yeah, in the distraction energy, if we're constantly distracted,
Mhm.
that all goes in the chalice. And so right now, as we're talking about beauty, and we're literally filling ourselves up, it's a really great time to be conscious of where our energy is right now and what we're focusing on. And, what do we really want our lives to look like? Do we want it to be fun, a lot of play? Then, start having fun, start playing, get that in your chalice.
Right. Sometimes I can hear people saying, I don't have time for that. And, and we both know we've had busy lives, single mother with jobs and everything else. And sometimes it's a few moments, right? I just encouraged a darling girl to just stop in between and dance, between her, right? That even if you can take these moments of connecting, that those can expand and get
Absolutely.
out of our mind of, right, how it has to be.
Yes, absolutely. And with this timing the way it is more of a challenge. I mean,
Yes.
I heard one of the school teachers just comment, it was a student teacher to the kids the other day, like, oh my gosh, I can't have kids. I don't even have a moment to myself when I go home anymore. And I'm thinking, wow, to raise children right now would be a challenge with timing if you're not in flow with it.
Yes.
Just think.
Yes.
But like, even one of the things that I do is I often will keep my ukulele right next to my computer.
Yes.
So work for an hour and I'm like, pick it up and I'm
Oh,
going to play for
beautiful.
5-10 minutes, So you might have to get a little creative
Yes.
in where you're going to slip in the fun, just knowing eventually the timing thing will get better, I think.
Right. I
Or
agree.
you'll get better with it, one of the two.
Yes. For me, I've put certain, like, if I want to just flip through a fun book, like I love flowers and birds. And so I put
Mhm.
those on my dining table. And so I take a break. Or a thing of crayons in a color book, and just take a mini break of just, let's just color. Let's take and do. So that's same with me. It's moments here and there. The yoga mat where I'm living right now is always in the middle of my floor. So it reminds me, stop, drop, stretch, breathe, be in that present moment of yoga, which is mind, body, spirit, more so. And the time right now, the energy we're in with this week especially, is so powerful for creating our dreams. So as you were saying, Geri, like, where is our focus? There's these synergies and synchronicities that can come forward here for us to do that more than ever before. And you know what I'm seeing? And this has been in some dear friends and people I'm connected to, is all of a sudden being fired or the job being taken away,
Mhm.
a relationship falling apart. What was another one? I mean, just all of a sudden, the universe comes in and says, "Whoop, it's done."
Mhm.
And that's sometimes how these things can show up, in order, right, for us to change our focus and believe we can start creating the dream.
Absolutely. Well, and you're just reminding me, I can remember when it was time for me to leave Minnesota and move to Idaho.
Mhm.
And so I was going to have to leave my children and a house in order to do this. It would have been the hardest. It was the hardest thing I ever did.
Yes.
But the judge came in and literally kicked me out of the house and gave me 9 days.
Right, that's right.
9 days to move to Idaho,
Yes, 9.
to say goodbye to everyone, to sell
Oh,
my house, all my things, move to a place I'd never been. And On paper, it made no sense at all why he would do that.
Right.
It was like it didn't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
There's no reason in the world why that should have happened that way, other than the fact my soul was saying, we're going to have to make this fast, because if we make it slow, you'll never be able to do it. It'll tug at your heart. It'll kill you. I'm going to have to force you out. And once you get there, you can deal with the pain afterwards. But, oftentimes if we don't heed the call, those things just happen.
Right.
And
so, yeah, for anybody that listens to this, I know in the moment if things like that happen, we do have to be with all the emotions and the feelings and sit and process through, because it can be very sudden and jarring to everything, and know that the universe is speaking, and you will get through the other side and begin to see more of the gifts and the beauty.
absolutely. And sometimes you may not even be able to process it in the moment. You might just have to put your emotional body on hold, take your action steps, get
Right.
going, do what you need to do. And then when you get to wherever the other side is.
When you have it, and then that's like that root chakra. Okay, I have to have
Right.
some sense of stability and safety to now I can process through all of those emotions and everything.
Yep.
Yes, for sure. And oh, were you going to go further with the chalice? Yes, what we're filling in. You had a
Oh, well,
or mhm.
so, and now it's a beautiful time too, because we're still coming out of that illuminated new moon. We're in an up level. It's a 6, so it's a rebirth day.
Mhm.
So just, imagine. So not only is all of your energy and all the things you focus on in that chalice, but um, imagine now, what do you want to bring into this? What do you want to bring in and fill yourself up with that's going to be projected into September, right?
Yes,
So, what are
yourself in
we?
this moment. What I am calling forward is
Yes.
notice what comes forward.
Yeah. And feel that. My feet are just ignited and
I'm feeling
tingling.
vibrating on my feet too. Yep.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
Yeah. So what are you seeing coming in? What kind of beauty? What do you see yourself wearing? What do you see yourself doing? Where do you see your consciousness?
There you go. And if you feel any slight resistance, energies, or fears, just
Hmm.
acknowledge it and just ask, maybe a fear I have about moving forward or a fear about receiving is, bring
Hmm.
awareness to it. As we bring awareness, we can then shift our choice, go through the experience
Right.
to shift our choice. And wow, I feel all this energy coming in.
Hmm.
Any of you that listen, may you feel that you are deserving that root chakra. I deserve because I was born. It's my time. I am here now to live my unique, beautiful, amazing beingness that I am here to live, to dance with that in greater ways of trust.
Yeah. And who do you see yourselves with? And
Yes.
how do you see yourself treating yourself? How do you see others treating you? How do you,
There.
yeah.
Yes. What does that feel like? What does that look like? To love to me feels like unconditional love to me is, you know, peace feels like how I see peace is. Yeah, really. Ooh, feel that in the high heart. Ah.
Hmm.
hmm
Yeah.
And maybe following that up with, I was flipping through an old notebook today, looking for something else, and this jumped out from another beautiful mentor that I appreciate, the seer Almin. And it's, if we put our hand on our heart and choose to repeat to yourself, if you like, I am the supreme creator of my environment. Deep breath. The quality of my journey is shaped by my joyous expectations. Deep breath. I think only the most beautiful thoughts possible. I create something beautiful each day. I create an abundant flow into my life through expressions of generosity. Feel that into your solar plexus. I am guided by inspiration into living my life of godhood. Deep breath. I feed my soul by seeking out that which inspires and uplifts. Slowing down the pace of life so that we can make sure that the motivation of our actions comes from authenticity and not the expectations of others or social conditioning. Make my highest choices from faith in myself rather than from fear. And I thought that was her, but that may be somebody else that has said that. So I'll keep that out there open. But that to me was such a beautiful tie into this. I remind myself the most beautiful thoughts possible.
Yeah, absolutely. It reminds me too, the first one of the I Am discourses, of course, that are going on right now, where it's a 12-week thing. So you can look that up under Sri, SRI, and AND, Kira, KIRA.com. And it's a 12-week course of the I Am discourses, channeled through Saint Germain originally, and now being rechanneled again through Kira. And so it's very much, what was your first statement? It was an I Am statement.
I am the supreme creator of my environment. Absolutely. How, to be more conscious of what we are saying after those I Ams. And
yes,
touched on that throughout the show today. And that is a beautiful opportunity to come together in a very high consciousness mastery group to add this beautiful illumination grid to our planet. And I know I had a couple people ask me today about it. And yes, you can still join. We will get the recording from Mondays, and then we can jump in next Monday. And your essence is important and is a beautiful expression of beauty added to the whole.
Absolutely. And you don't need the book right away. You can, but you want to get the book eventually, just because this is helping to form this grid. And every time I open my book up, I smell flowers. I'm smelling things in this book every time I open it. And so together, all these books are forming a grid, and our energy is forming a grid. And we are literally changing the frequency and the path of humanity through this. And so the more people that sign up, the more people that join in this, I mean, and literally we can see through the pictures that are made every time we get together. There's a picture that comes through on the shift of the eye opening, the shift of the masters coming together. And so if you feel called at all, we, join in. We'd love to have you join at any time. So
beautiful. Thank you. And anything else as we're winding down our time here?
Well, let me see. How about a Cards of Clarity reading?
Yep.
So I did notice that we're not able to see the chat through our Zoom link, because there was a few people that chatted on YouTube. So just a shout out. Thank you all who sent in a chat.
Thank you for joining. Yes.
We will at some point get this mastered. And so, and I have to giggle, because on the day that we're doing the show about beauty, right? Part of the reason we're linking this through Zoom is because we thought we looked better.
That crossed my thought too. We like the filters on Zoom.
It's a clearer, crisper picture. So anyhow.
That's great. Oh.
Eventually we'll have this figured out, so we'll be able to, intermingle with the chat a little bit better.
Absolutely. And we do have coming a call board where you can call in and we will share intuitive readings with you. And that has something
certainly after the up level, probably, right?
We're getting it all mastered. And
yep, this is our first little step of the up level. By tomorrow we'll be a live show where you can come and see us on stage.
I love it.
Okay, so today our Cards of Clarity reading is Benevolent One's 6 Wisdom.
Love
the
it.
Wisdom card. So what is wisdom?
Yeah.
Benevolent One, 6 Wisdom. What is wisdom? I remembered the first three words. The question is being asked of you because you're at the brink of releasing the veil of doubt that clouds your connection to only pure wisdom. The wisdom that resides within your heart, once anchored and balanced. To embody this wisdom is a declaration to the universe that you have arrived, that you are ready to trust the unfolding of all events, that you recognize the divine at work in everything and everyone. Let this first seed of wisdom grow into maturity now as you further empower your trust in you.
Now, isn't that perfect? As these cards always are. I mean, everything we talked about that came forward was reaffirmed. That is so perfect.
Yeah. It's not even a miracle anymore. It's just almost to the point where it's just an expectation. Of course, that would be the card, right?
And that's it. Yes, as we all keep stepping into this, filling our chalice with that beauty, that is that instantaneous manifestations, and miracles are just commonplace.
Yep. And
open ground wisdom.
Keep looking in that mirror and seeing the beauty in yourself. Every little wrinkle, every little quirk, every little hair, every little molecule.
Yes, that is a good reminder. That was on my list to practice looking deep into your eyes. I know at first for me, it was hard, and to look in the eyes and I sobbed. And the more I do it, may we all see our beauty and then reflect that beauty out into our world.
Absolutely.
And receive.
Yeah. Well, thank you everyone for listening. And both Patty and I, you can find Patty at Expanding Hearts. You can find me at Joyful Living. We have the links below or links below, above. I'm not sure. I think below. And anyways, find our links. We both do medical intuitive work, and we both help people do what we do here on the show on a daily basis. And so come check us out.
Guidance, support, intuitive readings, medical intuitive readings of your chakras. Any questions, we're always available. Reach out.
Soul chart readings, cosmic life regressions, all kinds of things. And if you have quick questions, you can find us both on Wizio. So, so we would love to hear from you. And thank you so much for listening, and have a great week.
We send out big hugs of love, and dreams and beauty amplify.
Yep, fill that chalice up, and together we will make a better world for everyone.
Namaste.
Namaste.